8 quarters, where's he gone? Your takeaway on what you're seeing with Booker.
Well, we're seeing why the Phoenix Suns weren't a success until Chris Paul came to town. That for all the numbers that Devin Booker has put up and all that I've heard from players, current and former, about how this guy is an underrated superstar, we're seeing the hole in it. You know what he is? He's the next Carmelo Anthony right now in terms of he can be your best scorer. He can be a great scorer, but he cannot be your leader. You need somebody else to do that. Carmelo Anthony played his best basketball when he was with either Chauncey Billups or Jason Kidd on the Olympic team, or now with Damian Lillard. We can appreciate him for what he is. But now with Chris Paul out, you're asking Devin Booker to do all the things that you asked him to do the last few years that weren't successful. And I can't help but feel like the Lakers have their number, have his number rather, and that they know that he's an emotional player, that they can wind him up. And there's one thing about playing with spirit and playing with emotion, and then there's being emotional. And he so easily gets into these one-on-one battles and the trash talk and gets completely distracted from, you know what, I need to run this team. I need to make good decisions. He has a little Russell Westbrook in him, and that when things get bad, he thinks that playing faster is the answer, and as a result, he turns the ball over more, and his decisions are more erratic. So he is making the best case for Chris Paul as MVP that anybody has made all year long. Chris Paul didn't get the love because they looked at the numbers and they looked at Devin Booker's numbers and said, oh, well, is he even the best player? No, he may not be the best player on the team or the most talented, but Chris Paul is the most valuable. And that's why he was on my ballot.
So Miami's lost 3 games by 29 points or more this year, 29 or more, all to Milwaukee. So I do think it's fair to say Milwaukee's a better team this year. They went out and got Drew Holiday, who's a terrific, underrated player, has been for a decade. And P.J. Tucker. They're a better team, and they're young players. And Middleton now is not asked to be a star. He's asked to hit some shots, and that's what he is. He can be a shot maker. But it is interesting with Miami. You know, there's the old term, lightning in a bottle. Were the Heat lightning in a bubble? And all this is just sort of fraudulent.
No, I wouldn't say that. It's a different Miami Heat team, as Joy aptly pointed out. They've made some personnel changes, and they bet on some guys that have not paid off. They moved off of Jay Crowder. They moved off of Kelly Olynyk. They bet on Duncan Robinson and Tyler Herro. And they've now become more of a finesse team when that wasn't what they were last year.
Yeah.
So I feel as if they shifted. And when it comes to these particular matchups, it's as simple as looking at what happened in overtime in Game 1. Last year, when there was a need situation for the Miami Heat to stop the Milwaukee Bucks, they had Jay Crowder, Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler to guard Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton, and Eric Bledsoe. Now, this year, they had in overtime, you had Bam Adebayo on Giannis, you had Jimmy Butler on Drew Holiday, and now you were left without Jay Crowder with Duncan Robinson guarding Chris Middleton.
Yeah.
Now it is switched where you can just matchup hunt and find that difference. And John Horst, the GM there, has done a really nice job of shifting the mentality and the vibe around this team. They were, for the most part, still a finesse team, the Milwaukee Bucks were. But adding P.J. Tucker, adding Drew Holiday, and sneakily adding Bryn Forbes from the San Antonio Spurs has really changed the way they look at themselves. P.J. Tucker said it the other day, we're dogs. Like, you didn't think of the Bucks as dogs last year.
That's
they
right.
Didn't have that. That was the Miami Heat. The Bucks have added that, and that's given you that vibe that you needed around Giannis Antetokounmpo to lift this team. I think everybody's all hot and bothered about the Brooklyn Nets. You need to take a look at what Philadelphia is doing to Washington and what the what the Bucks have done to Miami.
Yep.
They're beating better teams by the same margin.
Yeah, we picked Milwaukee on this show. I did to win the championship, and I think there are nights they're very inartistic, but to your point, they're a more physical team and match up well with Brooklyn. So, listen, the playoffs are giving us, blowouts. They're giving us competitive series, and then they're giving us a Greek tragedy called the LA Clippers, where if they lose tonight, it's going to be a sweep. It's kabloom, Steve Ballmer. It's one thing, Rick, to lose. There's another to be humiliated as a public figure, as a mayor, as a sports owner, as a talk show host. Everybody's got a bad ratings book. Everybody has a legislation that doesn't pass. You don't win every day as a public figure. But to be humiliated is different. And if the Clippers lose tonight, what happens? What does this team look like in 3 months?
Yeah. Well, that's the difficulty, and it's a difficulty when you build a team around a core that is flawed at its heart. I mean, nobody in the league would say no to pairing Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. That said, did they all, and the GMs that I talked to, did they all look at it and go, well, you don't really have a leader between those two guys? And so you're going to be good, you're going to be potent, but can you ultimately get the job done? And you can change all the pieces around it, and it's not going to answer the inherent problem that your two best players are not leaders. And we see this. The Warriors were as much as they could be because of the leadership of Steph Curry.
Yeah.
I would say the Grizzlies are being as much as they can be because of the leadership of Ja Morant. The Suns with Chris Paul were as much as they could be. All those teams overachieved as a result of their leadership. When you don't have leadership, when you don't have a best player, one of your top players who's holding everybody accountable, you are going to underachieve. You still may be good because you have the talent, but you're never going to realize your potential. And that is the issue. Now, the thing is you could take apart this Clippers team. You could send Paul George someplace else. You could potentially trade Kawhi Leonard, although I see that being a difficult thing to ultimately do. And they could go someplace else and have success, the success that you wanted, because they're not the leader on the team now. And that's the challenge that Ballmer faces. For me, you need to break it apart and start over, as painful as that might be.
Yeah.
Or you're just going to continue to get the same results. It is flawed. I thought, and mistakenly so, like getting Rajon Rondo would add that piece. But what I've seen so far is Kawhi Leonard and Paul George have this unearned arrogance that, no, we got this. We can take care of this. We'll run this. Because the moments that I see Rajon Rondo in charge are the best moments I've seen of the Clippers. I need Kawhi Leonard and Paul George to be ancillary complementary players and to do the dirty work and allow Rajon Rondo to operate, crazy as that might sound. But if you want to win, you put your ego aside and go, I'll do whatever is necessary to get it done. And I simply do not see that from the Los Angeles Clippers' best players.
Yeah, well broken down. Ric Bucher, have a great weekend, buddy. Thanks again, man.